The Engero Tales, Tales of the Soul. In the quiet town of Ndalaira, the sun rose gently and set without fanfare, and the trees whispered their age-old secrets to the wind. It was the kind of place where morning smelt like dew and maize porridge, and children's laughter still echoed down dusty lanes. And in that town lived a man named Malachi. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't powerful. But his name was spoken with reverence, not because of what he had, but because of who he was. He was the kind of man who stopped in the rain to help a stranger change a tire, who stayed up late to counsel a troubled youth, who gave his last shilling to a hungry child and walked home with a smile. People called him the good man, and in a world that often forgets what goodness looks like, he became a living memory of what it means to care. His kindness was his identity. His faith in others, his quiet rebellion against a hardening world. But kindness, in a world ruled by sharp suits and sharper smiles, is often mistaken for weakness. Among the many lives Malachi touched was a boy named Joram, sharp-witted, full of charm, and desperately hungry for more. Malachi saw a familiar flicker in Joram's eyes, a restlessness, a spark, a need for direction. And so, he took him under his wing. He gave him trust, opportunity, belief. He called him son in every way but blood. But what Malachi didn't know was that Joram wore masks. Beneath the grateful smile was a calculating mind. Behind the ambition was envy, deep, cold, and patient. Years passed. And then, like a shadow returned at dusk, Joram came back, but not as a mentee. Not as family. He came back with forged documents, twisted narratives, and a lawyer's precision. He didn't stab Malachi in the back. He rewrote the truth, and left Malachi holding the pieces. The fall was swift. The bank accounts were emptied. The trust evaporated. The whispers in the town grew teeth. Within weeks, Malachi lost his job. Within months, the little savings they had vanished. Swallowed by debts, legal fees, and a reputation in ruins. His name, once spoken with affection, now rode on hushed tones and narrowed eyes. And in the middle of it all stood their small home, once warm and alive, now still, heavy with silence. The curtains hung like mourning veils. The clock ticked like a taunt. The walls remembered who they used to be. And in that silence sat Ammani, Malachi's wife. A woman of quiet fire, whose grace had always carried more strength than anyone realized. She had battled illness alone, wearing her pain like armor made of lace. And now, she watched her husband, the good man, slowly unravel into someone she barely recognized. Not broken. Not cruel. Just hollow. Their daughter's school fees were overdue. Their fridge hummed more with memory than food. And every phone call felt like a threat wrapped in courtesy. But Ammani did not break. She cried, yes, in secret. Into pillows. Behind running taps. Between spoonfuls of resilience. But she refused to let the darkness win. So, she began to write. At first, it was whispers. Fragments. Digital confessions at 3 a.m. Pain scribbled onto the back of receipts and napkins. But her words carried truth, raw, bleeding, unfiltered. She wrote about betrayal. About wolves in wool. About how society applauds the cruel and questions the kind. And one day, she posted a piece online. Then another. On quiet forums, on forgotten blogs, in digital alleyways where the broken go to breathe. And the echoes came, first as whispers, then as a rising tide. I thought I was the only one. Your story feels like mine. You reminded me I still have a voice. And then came the message. From a small but passionate editor, tucked away in Nairobi. Your voice is exactly what the world needs right now. Ammani's words became a book. The book became a movement. And the movement lit candles in rooms long abandoned by hope. Her story, their story, became a lighthouse for those drowning in silence. And Malachi? He began to heal, not through revenge, but through grace. He watched as his wife turned their pain into purpose. As strangers sent letters saying, "Because of you, I didn't give up." As the world slowly began to remember who he was, not the man Joram painted, but the man whose kindness left fingerprints on souls. And what of Joram? Lies, like rot, spread, until even the liar begins to stink. It started small. An audit. A scandal. A trail of truth that refused to stay buried. Eventually, the truth caught up. As it always does. Because while evil may sprint, truth walks, and never loses its way. In the end, this is not a story of revenge. It is a story of rebirth. Because kindness, when twisted, may bleed, but it does not die. It plants seeds. It echoes. And if even one person reads this and chooses to stay kind, to tell their truth, to not surrender to bitterness, then this story, this pain, has become something holy. Malachi was never naive. He was brave in a world that told him not to be. And Ammani, she was not just a survivor. She became someone's reason to hope. You can be that, too. Because every broken thing can still carry light. And some of the strongest lighthouses are built from ruins. Subscribe to Engero Tales today.